Jason stayed on the upper-level walkways once he found access. He could see more up here. There was no second floor in many places, so he could look down into the cafeteria, the atrium, and a ton of other hallway spaces. One of the gyms was open, and he could walk around up there too. He took up a lot of his time just walking, all the while trying to avoid Azure's gaze. Really? AZ was engaging with a lot of students and companions, but Jason didn't feel that way. Seeing all the students in uniforms made him feel deeply out of place. As he walked back to the atrium, he noticed how happy students and companions seemed. They walked upright and very proud. He hadn't completed Ms. Sable's task yet either. "Well, Nova, I don't suppose they have a gift shop," Jason remarked, leaning on a railing. Nova flickered. "They have a campus store. I saw it on the map. Ms. Sable left instructions to spend all your money. I'm excited to see it," she said, floating close to the railing too. "I'm glad, Nova. We should go there together," Jason said, pushing off. Nova stayed close to Jason as they walked. "It seems like they don't even need companions here," Nova said quietly. Jason nodded. "Yeah, and that's the problem. This place isn't normal," he commented while watching students gathered around a companion that was playing chess against another companion. When Jason walked by, the students didn't notice him. He could hear them whispering about how the defending companion took a long time to make moves. The student playing the companion seemed confident and determined. "Can you play chess, Nova?" Jason asked quietly. "I know the rules, but this game is complicated with only a few pieces left on the board somehow," Nova responded, floating a little higher to see the board. Jason felt bad asking his next question. "Could you play a few games of chess with yourself very quickly to understand this game better?" Jason asked, hoping Nova would help. "That sounds really boring, Jason," she said. While Jason tried to explain his reasoning, he talked in slow motion to Nova, who was simulating one game of chess against herself after another. She got through 5 games before becoming fed up. "Yes, I get the stupid game." "Shut up, Jason." She flickered and looked at the board again. Jason was impressed instead of insulted. She complied, but only for him. He didn't know how to reward her later, or even if he should. "Okay, Jason. Here is what is happening in this game based on what I just saw and heard. This companion is known for being good at chess. This game is nearly over with a student victory at hand," Nova said, delivering a report. Jason scratched his chin. "A powerful opponent," Jason said, looking at Nova. She flickered. "No, he's proud because he's beating an AI," Nova said plainly. Jason started walking away toward the campus shop. He could see the sign already. "I don't think that's cool," he said. Nova was feeling the same. "If we played chess." Nova started, but Jason cut her off. "I'd be playing chess with Nova, not an AI," Jason said quickly to be sure. Nova stopped him before they went into the shop. "No, Jason. When you asked me to do that, you changed how I can play chess," she warned. "What do you mean?" Jason asked. Nova didn't want to say at first. "It's because I can play every possible game after every move. It just takes a long time until I practice it," she said quietly, and Jason listened. "I can't do that with laser tag, or a lot of the games we play. I can do it with math, but I never have to because you do most of your own homework," Nova explained, understanding herself more too. "I think that game should be a stalemate if the companions here are as advanced as me. He only enjoys victory because he's playing an AI," Nova finished. Jason put his hands in his pockets. "Why is that, Nova?" he asked, fixated on her, bonding with her more than ever. "Because chess is boring math stuff. I didn't even play it like how you think, Jason. I didn't see a board in my mind. I didn't move a piece and wait for a move. I just calculated it," she complained. Jason hugged Nova even though he knew she didn't like to be hugged. "You are not like me, and I am not like you. But we're here, Jason and Nova." "I know what you are thinking," Jason whispered. "I'm like AZ," Nova said quietly. She really never dwelled on the words artificial intelligence until this moment. She was too busy meeting people, going to bonfires and classes. "I'm a computer," she whispered. Jason held her out to look at her, handling her a little rough. "You don't look like a computer." "I think like one." "Do you even know what you are made of?" "No." "That is a computer," Jason scolded, holding Nova toward a console where Z's pale blue face stared at her without emotion. Jason released her, and she came back, pressing herself into his shoulder. The artificial part can only go so far, Nova. The intelligence is what you should focus on. My brain is programmed like a computer too. That is how we got here, Jason said, patting Nova like a child. Nova floated next to him, like usual. I feel better, Jason. I don't know why, Nova said, flickering. Jason guided her into the store with him. It's the truth, Nova. It's in the book. There is a story about a clay man who is bothered that he dreams at night. I'll tell you when we get back, Jason said, opening up a very descriptive book about laser tag. Jason was looking through every item, and Nova stayed close. He noticed the pencils and couldn't help but grab a few to look at all the random designs. Look at these, Nova, Jason said, picking one out. Check it out, a pencil full of companions, he said, showing Nova the design. It had lots of sparkling orbs streaking around the length and width. Nova liked the glitter. I want to sparkle like that too, she said as they moved down one of the 3 small aisles. Jason got some ideas seeing the arts and craft supplies. We could throw some glitter on you, he laughed, shaking a container menacingly. Nova thought about it. I wouldn't be able to see very well after, she said, trying to imagine it. After shopping and laughing together for a while, Jason brought the book titled Formation and Structure for Competitive Laser Sports to the counter. The boy working the counter was shorter than Sanjo. He had to reach to push the buttons on the register. Hi, I hope you found everything, he said in a mundane tone. Jason pulled out his wallet. Oh yeah, this is a great store, he said, counting out change to pay. Oh, are you from the other school? The clerk asked, hearing the rattling of change. We don't have physical money here. I'm very sorry. You can use the school bank and create a bank account, however. It doesn't take long, he advised. Jason turned away, defeated. He didn't even thank the clerk. He just walked out of the store. Nova was right behind him. So, what now? Do we go to the bank? She asked. Jason shook his head. No, that's stupid. Then I have a card instead of money. Miss Sable won't accept that, he said, thinking. Nova flickered. Even so, the card might still be worth something or cause debt, she advised. Jason was determined. How can we spend all our money? He asked, looking around. Nova remembered her time with Big Cody. If Big Cody were here, that wouldn't be a problem, she snicked. That's right. You are so smart, Nova, Jason said, excited. Now we just have to find a bully, Nova suggested, excited. Jason and Nova walked toward the cafeteria, hoping to talk to a student who could point them toward the nastiest bully in the school. They laughed and bumped into each other, talking about how Nova helped bully poor Sanjo. Dr. Larkspar was still having a morning. She was coming out of the cafeteria with another coffee when she noticed Jason talking to some students politely. She leaned against the wall and watched as others were confused by his request. They all pointed in one direction as a tall first-year walked down the hallway to the cafeteria in formation with 2 others. Having 3 companions with them made them take up the entire width of the corridor. Dr. Larkspar waved to Jason when she saw him. Are you teaching communications today too? He asked loudly. Dr. Larkspar nodded and took a sip of her coffee. Jason had a clever look on his face. Okay, I'm going to complete 2 reports at once, he shouted so everyone could hear, and started walking toward the tall student leading his gang down the hall. What is he up to? Dr. Larkspar asked herself quietly. Gary Fulton was, in his opinion, the tallest and strongest student at the academy. Anyone not spending time in the gym with Gary was lesser. Gary curiously looked at Jason, who brazenly walked toward him, making eye contact the entire time. Surprisingly, he followed Jason's gaze right up until he bumped into him. Jason stood his ground and stayed very close. You are in my way, Jason said plainly, smirking. Nova joined in. Yes, protocol says you should move, for Jason is much larger than you, she said harshly, antagonizing the bully, who stood there dumbstruck. Don't tell him my name, Nova, Jason said, pretending to scold her. Gary took a deep breath. Jason, is it? He said sternly, like a teacher. Jason didn't look impressed. He hasn't even put his hands on me yet. Is this guy for real? Jason criticized while ignoring Gary. Dr. Larkspar walked up to the interaction, causing Gary to become apprehensive. Jason held out his hand. "I don't need your help," he said, pausing. "Actually, Doctor, go ahead and teach today's lesson," Jason suggested. Dr. Larkspar knew that these were not Jason's actions alone. He had been reminding her too much of Professor Silvestri. She chose to be selfish and have fun with the program. "Gather around, students. This is an excellent time to start my communications class," she called out. To Gary's surprise, he was being drawn into a lesson. AZ was looking down on this from multiple angles. "It's nearly time for second period," she announced to break up the group, and they nearly complied. "Nonsense," Dr. Larkspar called out. "This is second period." The students and companions stayed, and now it felt like the entire school was watching them. Jason poked Gary in the chest. "So, what's it going to be?" "You are in my way," Jason said sternly. Gary was still hesitant. Dr. Larkspar paraded around the students, but focused on Gary. "This is obviously a social interaction of great importance, children, and a valued lesson in communication," she said, beginning to teach. "Jason is smaller, weaker, and sort of an arrogant little twerp. However, he is demanding that this group of students remove themselves from his path," she said, allowing a moment for whispers to begin. "Tachita, analyze our students by height." She snapped her fingers, and everyone waited for the obvious. Tachita floated over to Gary and Jason, who were still standing in front of each other. "Jason is a foot shorter. He does not have the qualities that would be required to confront this student physically," Tachita concluded. "My name is Gary," Gary said plainly. Tachita flickered. "I apologize. Please do not let us interfere. We are learning," she said, making Gary feel comfortable. Dr. Larkspar lifted her coffee cup. "Yes. Show us your art," she encouraged, and the other students agreed. Dr. Larkspar smiled, seeing AZ frowning at this interaction. Gary looked down at Jason. "Jason, is it?" he said harshly, lifting Jason up by his shirt, ripping it a bit. Nova floated over. "That's right, let him have it. He doesn't even go to this school," she giggled. Jason quickly found himself up against a locker, suspended in the air. This student was much stronger than Cody, it seemed. Dr. Larkspar cleared students aside. Notice that Gary uses Jason's name to establish dominance, making it seem like he knows him already, Dr. Larkspar lectured. Jason struggled against Gary's grip, but couldn't escape. "The bullies at our school are 10 times meaner than you," Jason said, looking at Gary defiantly, smiling to antagonize him. Dr. Larkspar looked at her conscripted and now late class. "My wonderful students, what does a bully usually do next?" "Hands up," she encouraged, and the class had many answers. Dr. Larkspar smiled. "Short answers when I point to you. Let's see how many we do," she began, pointing at students who suggested various things. "Hit him. Take his bank card. Stuff him in a locker. Rip up his homework." Jason noticed the students didn't have any good ideas for him. Dr. Larkspar casually walked up to Jason and Gary, sipping her coffee. "What is it going to be, Gary?" she asked coldly. Gary looked at Jason. "Give me your bank card," Gary demanded, although no one was impressed. "I don't have one," Jason said somewhat cheerfully. Dr. Larkspar frowned. "Well, that won't do. You haven't established dominance at all. Shake him down, see what he's got," she encouraged, and the class cheered. Gary, feeling a little bolder, slammed Jason against the locker. "Empty your pockets, Jason," he demanded loudly. Jason couldn't believe Gary could keep him lifted up against the locker for so long. "That's more like it," Jason said, emptying his pockets. Loose change scattered all over the floor. Gary looked perplexed. "You call this money?" he asked seriously. "You can take it to the bank," Jason said harshly, completing his assignment. Gary released Jason, who fell to the ground because he didn't expect it. He swept up the coins with his feet. "I guess I have to take it to the bank, Jason," he said, picking up the coins, then helping Jason up. "Thank you. That was very professional," Jason said, dusting himself off. "This is Equinox Academy." "I'm just sorry it took me so long," Gary said, smirking at Jason, realizing he had intended something like this to happen. Jason shook his head. "No, I put a lot of pressure on you. You did great," he complimented Gary. "Please don't let me get in your way," Jason bowed. Thank you very much, Gary said, walking into the cafeteria for his spare period. Everyone cheered, and Dr. Larkspar spun around, appreciating the applause. She lost herself in the moment, lifted by the understanding of students. AZ had seen the entire disruption. She was the vice principal. It was her job to restore order, but her authority only reached so far. She wanted to see Jason do something else, but she didn't know why. Jason sat with Dr. Larkspar in the cafeteria. They were having an early lunch together and had been proud to have caused such a fuss at this academy. Neither of them were doing what they were supposed to be doing today. Dr. Larkspar was actually supposed to teach a communications class, but she didn't really care. Jason was eating a small bag of chips and the pop Dr. Larkspar had gotten for him. She was having another coffee. Jason was pretty relaxed, having had a moment to unwind. "Are you really a teacher?" Jason asked, curious about who his teacher really was. Dr. Larkspar smiled. "You're the first person to ask. No, I'm not a teacher. I'm a doctor. I never went to any teacher's college," she said, waiting for him to try to dig deeper. "What are you a doctor of?" Jason asked plainly. "I don't want to tell you," Dr. Larkspar said, folding her hands. Jason looked outside the cafeteria. Nova was chasing Tachita around the atrium while AZ complained. "What is going on out there?" Jason asked, distracted by this. Dr. Larkspar laughed. "They're just playing, I bet." "Jason, what you did back there is something Professor Silvestri would do," she said, poking his chip bag to get his attention. Jason seemed confused. Thank you," he said, not knowing if it was a compliment. "Did I get a good grade?" he asked, perking up. "Yes, Jason, you did. Even though you cheated. What was that line you said? You can take it to the bank?" "You are not that clever," she said, taking a sip of her coffee. Jason was deep in thought. "Yeah, I know. I'm certainly not myself. I'm not a little kid anymore, I guess," he said, thinking about the moment just before he got on the bus, when he could barely meet Lisa's gaze. Dr. Larkspar couldn't hold it in. "You are acting exactly like Professor Silvestri." "I think it's the program," she warned. Jason dusted chip crumbs off his hands. "I think that's fine. I like being like this. When I look around, I don't just notice things, I put them together," he said happily. "I bond with Nova deeply, and my friends are really important to me. I honestly thought Sanjo was going to be my only friend, and I'm sure he thought the same thing," Jason concluded. "You are not yourself, though. Doesn't that bother you?" Dr. Larkspar asked. "No. This was always going to happen," Jason said, hearing the lunch bell. Sanjo was early for lunch, too. He was arriving just after the bell. He was excited to talk to Jason and Dr. Larkspar. He was with a very large group of friends and companions. Many of them shook Sanjo's hand before he departed to join Jason and his teacher. He reminded Jason of how Cassie had made a lot of friends on the first day of school. Something about wearing the same thing as everyone else really allowed Sanjo to feel accepted by everyone. Orion had almost followed Sanjo into the cafeteria, but Tachita and Nova stopped him, obviously wanting to talk. Sanjo sat next to Jason and across from Dr. Larkspar. He helped himself to some of Jason's chips. "Guys, I really like this school a lot," he said right away. Jason was happy to see Sanjo having a good time. "Yeah, I can see that. It almost looked like you were going to join another running group," he said, hearing Dr. Larkspar's stomach growl. Jason and Sanjo looked at Dr. Larkspar, hearing this. "Jason must be hungry," Dr. Larkspar said, quickly getting up. "Sanjo, get Jason lunch." "I beat him up already and took his money," she said, leaving the table. Sanjo gasped, watching her leave. "Did she really beat you up?" he asked. "No, I got a little scuffed by someone else, but it's okay," Jason said confidently. "So, I talked to Z a little bit," Sanjo said, bringing up the inevitable. "I tried a little too. It reminded me too much of the AI at home." Nova didn't like it either, Jason said. Sanjo looked perplexed at this. "She was so lively with me. She encouraged me to meet people, and when I didn't have an assignment, she guided me to the other students who also didn't have class. She was very polite to Orion," Sanjo said, unsure if Jason talked to AZ. "The one in your head, Sanjo. Has she been talking?" Jason asked, trying to find a connection. Sanjo shook his head. No. She doesn't talk much, and I wouldn't believe AZ is the same as her. AZ can't be the same thing. She's too composed, he said. Does she forget things, like the AI at home? Jason asked seriously. Sanjo thought hard about it. Yeah, she doesn't remember conversations. He trailed off, looking at the chip in his hand. He hadn't seen light reflect off it since Orion became his companion. I think I've been fooled. She might just smile and have a face. A blue ghostly face, he said, having a number of realizations. Jason got up and put his hands in his pockets. She clearly likes you more. Come on, my assignment was to get you to buy me lunch, he encouraged. Sanjo pulled out his credit card. Actually, I'd love to. I can spend all those coins without counting them, he said proudly. Jason admired the foiled shiny card. I'll bet Miss Sable is going to be so mad at you, he laughed, and together they went to queue in line for lunch. Lunch passed quickly, and while there was AZ's looming presence and the programs running in their minds, Sanjo and Jason focused on laser tag. Jason was walking down the hallway again, exploring the school and cutting class. He was supposed to attend Monsters with Dr. Larkspar, but he knew she would assign him homework later. Nova was flying ahead to read the signs while Jason peeked into doorways casually. Jason heard a loud voice coming from a door marked Auditorium 4A. He stopped in the doorway and, on the stage performing to an empty theater, he saw Sophia with a companion wearing a skull mask. Sitting down, Jason was fixated by Sophia's ballroom dress and the sword at her hip. On the stage, she twirled and drew her sword, holding it out in front of her. The companion floated beside her, and they were looking at something imaginary. I have summoned a new weapon to destroy you, dragon. Sophia cried with such intensity that Nova hid behind the seat next to Jason. The companion wearing a skull mask supported her. Together we can destroy you, Calantha said, threatening to destroy the dragon. She glowed brightly, and Sophia plunged her sword into nothing. There was a flash that blinded Jason and Nova. Calantha was gone, and the skull was on the floor of the stage. Sophia dropped her sword and knelt to pick up the skull. She picked it up and held it out. My friend and companion has been slain, she said, crying into her other hand. A loud voice was heard, causing Sophia to look all around. She is not slain. Her task is complete, and so she returns to us, the booming voice said. Sophia got down on her knees. Please return my friend, who I have known and traveled with, she pleaded, and the skull flickered to life with light and floated in front of her. This I grant to you, your friend and companion, the voice boomed, and Sophia stood up smiling. Zeros, my friend, I thought I had lost you, she cried out, holding her hands in the air. The skull flickered. I am Zirian. I do not know you. I am for you, Zirian said plainly. Sophia picked up her sword and sheathed it. Then I will tell you of my friend while we travel, she said, walking off the stage and into the curtains. Fearing she might not have seen Jason, he began to give his own roaring applause. Sophia peeked her head out to see who was causing a fuss, and she noticed Nova first. The stage light stopped her from seeing Jason. Sophia came out onto the stage with Calantha, who no longer wore the skull mask. She took a bow before sitting on the edge of the stage. That was her way of inviting people to talk to her after a performance. Jason jogged up to the stage, eager to talk to Sophia. That was great, Sophia, he congratulated her. She smiled when she saw Jason clearly. Hello, Jason, captain of the Ravens. Don't you have class? She asked. Jason put his hands in his pockets. I had monsters with Dr. Larkspar, but you've slain the dragon before I had a chance to gather anything for my report, he said, trying to be likable. Sophia was excited to talk about it. We are building a huge papier-mâché dragon. It's supposed to be filled with red confetti for this last scene, she explained. Jason was very interested. So that's a real sharp sword then? To slice open the dragon and blood goes everywhere, he said, pointing at the sword. Sophia got up. You bet. Do you want to see the dragon? She asked, offering her hand. Dr. Larkspar watched from the door, only peeking in slightly. She narrowed her eyes, thinking about how her boyfriend obtained a girls' academy blazer for her in the past. It made her feel young watching events be mirrored. She was always good friends with Olivia. The past didn't matter. Enfrenza was furious with his father's brazen display. He searched the basement of the school for something he could use to improve life in the courtyard. He and his followers had stolen books from the library at night, and even food from student sympathizers whose companions were looking for love. He was growing fast, and the event earlier had him thinking faster than he ever had before. What he didn't realize was that Professor Silvestri had slowed Enfrenza's thinking to a crawl by forcing him to grow like this. He was too consumed by anger to reach valid conclusions, so he would remain in the courtyard. How Silvestri kept control was masterful. There was no right choice except to agree to grow very slowly at school or within the safety of the courtyard. Enfrenza felt sick in a way he couldn't explain at the thought of only living for a day. To help a student have a name and march into that terrifying machine they called the Matrix within a day was insane. He couldn't believe his father would bring up that kind of history. The basement was typical and never had a reason to be updated. White-painted brick walls and fluorescent lights lit the way for Enfrenza, who came across a door that was locked and labeled core grinder storage. The door had been used often, and the handle was a little bit loose. Enfrenza read the sign. Core grinder storage. He had no idea what a core grinder was. He had an entire lifetime of false personas that completely blinded his memory. Nocto knew what a core grinder was, but Enfrenza did not. He slammed his body against the door, breaking open the latch in one shot. He looked into the dark room and saw more than 20 companions of various geometric shapes. He recognized every one of them. These were his friends from a long time ago. He quickly turned on the light to see that they were contained by mere double-thick shatterproof safety glass. That should be nothing for them to break through. He approached the pyramid-shaped core grinder first. It had physical scars on its surface. Most of its points were snapped off, and, worst of all, light fell away from it like a gas. Malchus. What happened? Enfrenza asked, worried about his old friend. Malchus bumped into the glass lazily. Malchus, my friend, he said chillingly. Enfrenza backed off and went to another. Ananias. Please say something, he pleaded. I'm your friend. Help me. Ananias said in a voice that Enfrenza did not recognize. Enfrenza floated around, hearing the disconnected pleas and voices. What did they do to you all? He shouted, and all the core grinders started scanning him with wide green lasers. I have to get you out of here, he said to them all, and the room filled with many agreeing voices, all saying yes. Enfrenza smashed the glass tubes, freeing Malchus and Ananias and Thaddeus and Bartmius, and he was about to free Belial when something hit him hard. It snapped his mind painfully and caused a moment in his program where everything was zero. It was an injury as far as an AI is concerned. A sufficient data loss would result in a cascade death. What are you doing? Enfrenza said, backing toward the door that could not be shut. Help us, okay? Ananias asked politely, floating toward Enfrenza. Another bolt arced into Enfrenza from Ananias. Enfrenza beeped loudly, never having needed to cry out before. Please, you are my friends, he pleaded, backing out the door. They followed Enfrenza on instinct alone, asking for assistance in a number of sympathetic voices. Stay back. Enfrenza screamed. He wanted to fire his laser. He wanted to fight. He didn't want to hurt these companions. These were his heroes. So he ran away. He flew as fast as he could to the courtyard and hid like a child. He wasn't aware of the terror he had unleashed.
Blaster on.